Hello and welcome to Headliners. Joining me tonight are His Royal Highness Prince Paul of Cox and the beautiful but narcissistic Duchess of Nunhead, Lewis Schaefer.
There you go.
I don't get a royal...
You don't? It's a shame.
Nothing for me, nothing for me. How are you guys doing?
I'm the Prince of Cox. I'm just dandy, Josh.
I would say you're the King of Cock. That's what I always address you.
Have you ever heard that before? Have anybody ever made a joke about your name?
In your school?
Never. I went to a comprehensive school on the edge of a council estate and no one thought to mention it.
It's weird because it's quite witty.
Witty? That's exactly how you would have said it at your school, wouldn't you?
What was your nickname, Lewis?
My name was Princess.
Pino boy.
My name was Princess at the time.
School. Princess, really?
Yeah.
That was your mom.
I was always a kid. They always called me Jerry Lewis because my name was Lewis, and Jerry Lewis was popular. Kids don't even know who Jerry Lewis was.
As in Great Balls of Fire?
No, that's Jerry Lee Lewis. I wish that were okay.
Is that because you married your very young woman?
Would you? No, it wasn't Jerry Lewis.
That's a coincidence.
We didn't have Jerry Lewis, and so
Why was my eye watering?
And he was like a goofy comedian.
All right, that's enough of that. Right, let's have a look at the front page.
Let's not go off script.
Mail on Sunday. Kate, I'm so touched by everyone's outpouring of love. Sunday Telegraph. Prince's pride at courage of his wife. The Observer revealed the deadly tactics used to keep migrants from our shores. The Sunday Times. Kate wrote every word to reassure the nation. Sunday Mirror, thank you for your warmth and support. We are both so touched. And finally, the Daily Star, now they are sorry. And those were your front pages. Paul, I sensed a bit of a theme on those front pages. What is the Daily Mail or Mail on Sunday surprise going with?
Mail on Sunday. Kate, I'm so touched by everyone's outpouring of love. So the Princess of Wales has revealed she feels extremely moved by the overwhelming deluge of love and sympathy which has greeted her courageous announcement that she has been diagnosed with cancer, Josh. So I'm not weeping. All of a sudden, my eye just started watering. This is an emotional story, but I'm not affected in this way. I thought it was a very moving and stoic video, though, yesterday. I wasn't on Headliners last night. I believe Lewis was, and he's been telling me all afternoon how good a job he did. It was good to see, and I just wish her all the best now, and I just hope we leave her alone. And I can't see any point in talking about this too much more, because she just, in much the same way as when the King came out and said that he had cancer, we kind of just let him get on with it now, so I think that's what we need to do.
Say that, but there are 10 pages of unrivaled reports and analysis.
I know.
Up, Lewis.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to talk about it. I feel absolutely let her to it. This is our job, of course, to talk about what's on the newspapers.
Yeah.
So it kind of forces us on this show to talk about it. But of course, my instinct would be just let them deal with this. Let her get through this.
Well, that's not my instinct.
What do you want to do?
My instinct is let's respect her privacy by talking about her privacy. That's my instinct. I mean, the fact is
interesting instinct. You.
The fact is this is a horrible story. For 3 months, even I was affected by it. I know what it's like when children lose their mother, when a wife is in the hospital. It really affects people. And the fact that the palace, if I can call them that, have handled this so absolutely poorly that they that people started to believe incredible thoughts.
You know what? I just think there are a lot of people out there sort of going, "Oh, the palace! It's the palace's fault," as opposed to looking within and going, "Maybe we shouldn't have been such a bunch of coxes."
No, because number one, this is one of the most important people in this country. Okay, and for her to go missing for 3 months, it's like out of an Agatha Christie story.
We knew she'd had surgery.
Well, we didn't know anything. Abdominal surgery, what does that mean? Number two, cancer is such an important subject for everyone, and we need more openness. This is not like.
But Lewis, it's not like people are going, "Ooh, cancer! What's this cancer thing that we're now talking about?" It's not like we don't know about cancer.
Well, number one, the fact that it's kind of kept secret. It's like the 1920s when it was like, shh, don't mention it, number one. And number two, there's an alternate view of cancer. Cancer is not...
We're going to move on now. Sunday Times, Lewis, please don't mention cancer anymore.
Cancer. This is
Talk about China.
New security fears. Well,
China got cancer?
I would say they are kind of a cancer
Yeah.
on the whole
Cancer
world.
to democracy.
Cancer to democracy, yes. New security fears as China targets Westminster again. And this is, China is using cyber attacks. China. And this is a total non-story. The fact is, China are our enemy. We are now coming to terms with that. And enemies use whatever means they have, and they've been doing cyber attacks on our politicians, including
And the
David
ones
Cameron.
particularly who are speaking up. That's
David
really what the
Cameron.
story's about, Paul, right?
Yes, it is. But the fact that, you said China is now our enemy.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a time in any of our lives where China hasn't been our enemy?
Yes.
No, I don't think so.
Ping pong. I watching Forrest Gump. There was that part.
Yeah, that was pretty serious.
When Nixon went over there and Kissinger and they shook hands and everything, when they entered the World Trade whatever it's called, and they became part.
But I think even as a result, even as part of all of those things, they were still our enemy. They are part of the East.
Yeah.
And we are part of the West.
Well,
Maybe you're just showing your age, Paul.
Yeah.
But
I would say,
but they're an emboldened enemy. That might be the difference.
they're a huge economy. They've got an army that is unrivalled,
But very short.
but very short, of course. I just hope that we're doing the same to them. Of course, this stuff goes on.
No, we're not, because we're you're not doing the same thing. What are you talking about? Are you saying that our IT is going to top their IT?
Well, I hope, as a very minimum...
Joke. Is he making a joke?
As a very minimum, I hope we are sending them our diversity leaders, because we could show them a lot.
You know what? To be fair, they have a real diversity issue in China.
They do.
They really need to get some more representation, and that actually would undermine a society, I think.
And I think if they got that right, all the problems would go
Can I ask you
away.
a question, Josh? Do you actually think that we're not doing things to spy?
I think we're trying. I just think that they probably have better tech.
You think they're better?
Maybe that's me being racist.
Yeah,
I don't know.
is probably.
Why is not you being racist?
Moving on to the Observer, Paul.
Racism. No, this isn't racism. Revealed the deadly tactics used to keep migrants from our shores. So this is a newly obtained footage by the Observer, and that's a key thing to remember at this point, because the leaked documents, witness testimonies, show that the French authorities have been using aggressive tactics, including circling a migrant boat, causing waves to flood the dinghy, and ramming into small boats and threatening passengers with a large tank of pepper spray. Now,
This probably makes you all quite excited.
yeah,
actually.
as the People's Gammon, I'm like, yeah, surely that's in the manual.
France now. You're going to eat some baguettes.
Yeah, the reason I say it's in the Observer, because I eat baguettes anyway, but
croissants as well.
I'll eat them as well inside the baguettes. The Observer is saying this is British-funded French forces doing this, so they're sort of saying
Say that 5 times.
So no, I can't. So they're saying, look, we're funding this brutality, but at the end of the day, we seem to have lost this in our modern society, that preventatives are often aggressive. You can't go into war, which this is to some degree. It's a battle. It's trying to stop an invasion to some degree. I know these are all emotive words, and people
keep on adding.
No, but people genuinely are upset by this. This is a huge issue, and there aren't many of our viewers, for instance, that are going to be, or listeners, that are going to be listening or watching to this, thinking, "Oh, that's a terrible thing." Now, of course, if it causes a huge catastrophe and there are many dead, there'll be lots of questions to answer.
But the point is not getting to that point. Saying that, Lewis.
Yes.
I'm hoping that you've read more of the article, but they talked about how they were using these aggressive tactics in Belgium, and supposedly that worked without any loss of life. And these really actually stem from being originally used in Greece. The thing about these photos are, of course, if you're on the boat, and I've said this before, but it's who you think are on these boats. We have seen the reality that in lots of cases it is young men. Certainly there was a time where it was mostly Albanians coming here, economic migrants. But there are going to be women on these boats. There are going to be children on these boats. They are going to be fleeing war zones. Seeing stuff like this is upsetting. But at the same time, you're also seeing the land in the background. I'm sure that you have to trust that they know what they're doing to a degree. What do you think, Lewis?
I don't know if you can trust what they're doing, but the fact is that what are they doing in France and coming over? I just...
What do you want to say?
I don't want to say kill.
Kill what are you talking about?
Is that...
I want to see you get out of this one. They're telling me in my ear, Josh, go to break. But I want to see you suffer with your stupid kill, kill, kill.
I'm not saying that because I don't think. I think we're in a very bad position. We're, you know, the fact that it's gotten this bad. If it was only a few people, but I don't know what to say.
Okay, I feel like you didn't get out of that.
No, what it is. I haven't. I don't.
Ironically, I feel like you're sinking. That's it for part one. Join us in part two when we'll be discussing the end of school protests, the banning of tiny shampoo bottles, and we'll find out what 2.7 million Brits are too sick to do.
This
Don't
is
go
my
away.
last show. This is my last.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Do you mind if I ask you a little bit about Sebastian? It really amazes me how a mother who can lose a child in such a shocking and unexpected way, so little, so precious, can then turn that grief into something so positive. How did you find the strength to get up, get a camera crew, as you say, travel to the other side of the world and investigate all of this?
I was angry at Sebastian for dying. You know, you feel like saying, God, 32 years later, and I can still get very, very upset about it. I was angry that something that while he was born and lived with me and slept and then died, they were actively campaigning in New Zealand to try and stop this happening because they had a very high cot death rate there. They had the lady, the Anne Diamond, if you like, of New Zealand, a television presenter called Judy Bailey, went on telly every night and said, if you're just about to put your baby down to sleep, put him on his or her back, not the tummy, and this will help. And their cot death rate plummeted. And I went out to New Zealand and met her, and it was anger that drove me to come back and demand that we have the same advert here, the same campaign. And of course, I got all this complete nonsense from the Department of Health saying, you know, oh, young mothers do not watch television, I was told. In other words, while New Zealand mums were being told how to save their babies' lives, we actively denied British mums that advice during the time that Sebastian and others were dying.
And the other point I suppose to make is it's helpful to educate all generations, because when I had my babies, my mum would say, he's not settling, just stick him on his tummy, he'll be much happier, that's what we did with you. And we had to say, well, things have changed, and, you know,
Yes.
but it's about educating everybody, because it's not just the mums that get their hands on the babies.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Just stop saying kill. Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Sunday's top stories. I'm Josh Howie, still joined by comedians Paul Cox and Lewis Schaefer. Kicking things off with the Sunday Times. And Paul, can we take this as a sign that Britain might, maybe, possibly have a tiny little problem with Islamists?
Well, what we can take from it is that certain segments of the UK believe we do. End school protests that force a teacher into hiding, says Gove advisor. This advisor is Dame Sarah Khan, who is a British Muslim lady, and she's also the independent social cohesion advisor, and she will issue a damning indictment on Monday to the police force, school leadership and local council involved in the Batley Grammar School scandal. Now, whilst I agree with her, The problem is not the location of the protests. The problem is the ideology that fuels
just to point
the
out
protests.
that they're going to say that they're going to be banning these protests from outside of schools. 150 metres.
Yeah, so they would ban all forms of protest activity within 100...
Apart from striking teachers. Yeah.
50 metres of school, apart from striking teachers, absolutely. So I would say it's the ideology that fuels it that's the problem, and the fear that we all have and everybody has that enables it. I mean, in a balanced world, the people that would be in hiding are the people that threatened to kill the teacher and sent him into hiding, not the teacher into hiding. That is ridiculous. We've got it all skewed and upside down.
Yeah, I mean, Lewis, reading this is a very upsetting story. It's incredible that it's been 3 years. It's incredible this teacher is still in hiding for his life. And it's what's most incredible, as Dame Sarah Khan points out herself, is that no one was ever arrested.
Well, I mean, come on. This is one of those stories. We get a million of these stories, and this is another one of them. The fact is, you know what? I agree with you. I agree with Paul. I agree with you. But the guy was an idiot. This is a guy, an RE teacher doing his job. He showed a picture
that he'd done the year before or 2 years before, both totally fine.
No, it wasn't totally fine. Everybody knows you don't show that kind of picture.
Well, he'd done it before and it had been fine.
It doesn't matter. You don't.
Why don't you show that kind of picture?
You don't know. I'm not going to show that kind of picture because I'm not an idiot.
No, he isn't asking you.
Yeah,
He's
but
saying, well, why don't you show that picture?
We live in a liberal democracy. We do not have blasphemy laws.
Yeah.
Because someone might take offence is not a reason to not do something.
It was somebody like you, Josh, who decided we need an open immigration policy and let Louis Schaefer in, and it totally changed the entire country.
Yeah. The problem is, and I actually disagree with you, Paul, in that it's fantastic that they are finally grappling or seemingly grappling with it. There are 15 official recommendations, but this would be one of them in terms of not protesting outside of schools. It's great that there's finally someone addressing this, I think, but the fact it's taken 3 years to get to this point, the fact that someone had to suffer like this, and when you read again in detail about how the school suspended him, how the police did nothing, how the local council did nothing for him, this was a failure of our country now. Do you think that these 15 steps are in the right direction? Do you think it can make change, Paul?
In the right direction will not make any change. Will not make any change because the power is not with these policymakers. We know this because the lady that's had to come out and say it is a British Muslim herself. Now, the best way that she can control this is to look back into her community and say,
well, I think
no, absolutely, I've got to finish this, Josh, because I think that she has got to look back into the community and it's got to come within. All those problems got to be resolved from within.
I don't say like I won't say her directly, but I will say yes, that the British Muslim community does need to take stronger efforts to address this stuff.
The Tories, who we would say in America are a lame duck administration, they're on the way out. So the fact that they're doing this, will Labour do it?
I know. I think this is positive,
yes,
but obviously more to do. Sunday Telegraph next, and a story about not being able to steal those fun little cosmetics from hotel rooms in Northern Ireland. What will they do with shower caps, Lewis?
Yeah. Well, hotel room shampoo bottles will be banned in Northern Ireland, but not in the rest of the UK. And basically, this is what happens when this Windsor framework came in, where now Europe is now
half in, half out.
Half in, half out. And basically, Northern Ireland. So Europe has said we don't want those little things because it's such a waste.
Yeah.
It's such a waste, those little bottles. And we want net zero. We want to be, whatever we want to not waste things. So I'm in favor of not wasting things. But Northern Ireland is kind of like the forgotten child at the start of a holiday. You know, you've got 5 kids and you leave one behind as you go off. Is that people have forgotten about Northern Ireland.
Well, in this case, but the DP are complaining. I mean, I would say, sorry, you did trust the Tories on this. They betrayed you. But it is somewhat amusing to me anyway that things could kick off because of these little bottles of champagne.
Yeah, this isn't a story about net zero. This is clearly a story about Brexit. It reminds me of those times that, smoking was allowed in one part of the restaurant, but not in the other. So you basically did have a full smoking restaurant because smoke doesn't just stay in one area of the room. And that's what's happening with Ireland and Northern Ireland, is that they're essentially under the same EU laws most of the time. And it was the only way to avoid a hard border. people were warned about this from right from the very beginning, and it's not as if this is new news. It's just the Telegraph highlighting that this is what's going to happen.
I mean, they're highlighting it because the DUP are highlighting it because they, consider themselves part of, they're part of the
Absolutely,
UK.
and it's always going to be a problem.
Well, it is going to be a problem, but I mean, at the same time, we are talking about little bottles of shampoo and the cling film around luggage, and also little sachets of tomato sauce if you're not getting a takeaway. These are, I agree with Lewis, these are somewhat wasteful things anyway. There's nothing wrong with getting rid of them. They're not going to hurt anybody to do it. What I think is also somewhat amusing about this article is this is implemented in 2030, and they're kind of going, this is going to ruin our hospitality industry. We're already suffering. It's like you've got 6 years to put in a hand dispenser. You think you can handle it? All right, we go to the iWeekend now, and this time around, will it be the Sun that won it for Labour, Paul?
Well, maybe. Murdoch's Sun newspaper inching towards backing Labour. So the Sun are inching towards giving Labour an endorsement at the general election after Sir Keir Starmer launched the tabloid's new politics TV show. And, of course, this followed the Labour leader's call for Nike to scrap the redesigned St George's Cross. And what I'm getting from this...
my vote with that.
Well, this is the point, though, isn't it? Because this isn't Sir Keir Starmer's opinion. This is Sir Keir Starmer giving an opinion which he thinks will help.
Wait, are you saying that a politician might conceal the truth, not say what they really think?
Absolutely.
And that's insane. Paul, you have to take that back.
I won't. I can't. At the centre of this is the idea that the Sun, which traditionally, certainly as we were all growing up, big newspaper like the Sun, could have influenced an election. I'm not saying it can't now, but I think it's much likely to influence an election now than it would have been.
Much less likely.
Much less likely than it would have done in the 1990s, for instance. I think now it all happens on Twitter, Instagram, social media, whatever it might be, people's Substacks. I would subscribe to Andrew Doyle's Substack if you were going to use a Substack at all.
I think you're wrong about this. I don't think the Sun. I think it's like does one thing cause the other thing, or the other thing cause the thing? I think the Sun wants to be on the winning team. Yeah. I think that's the most important.
Oh, yeah.
I think Murdoch wants to be on the winning team, so he sees which way the wind is going, whatever it is, and he chooses the thing. Tony Blair, those are the big.
Well, there's an argument that the Sun is somewhat totemic in terms of what it represents, the masses.
Yeah.
As a newspaper, I would argue it's heavily declined in terms of influence and content, frankly. But Labour are not going to not take their endorsement.
No, absolutely not. But, again, my point is that all we're seeing... What we're getting from Keir Starmer that's new? We're not getting anything from Keir Starmer, and now Keir Starmer is saying things.
No, he's got new glasses.
Well, I couldn't care less. I mean, he's saying the things that Murdoch wants to hear. Of course, if he wins over the Sun, he gets into power. We need to see change. We don't need to see the same people with different clothes on.
But what they need to do to enforce change is to win. I think that's the policy there. Right, we're going to move on to the Observer now, Lewis, and a story about 2.7 million. You probably think they're couch potatoes.
Well, you could count me as one of them. Longest sustained rise.
You're not employed?
People.
Well, you don't get paid here, do you?
Well, you know what? I do get paid, but not enough. I want to talk to the people and maybe get more money. Tweet me at Lewis Schaefer and say Lewis Schaefer needs more money. He's got
a marriage, possible child.
Possible. Anyway, this has been the longest sustained rise. Did I say this? In rise in people too sick to work since the 1990s. So in the 1990s, people didn't want to work, and look what happened.
The 1990s? That was so long ago.
So long, and that's
1990s.
But you know what? For our viewers, probably not. For most people, it is that way. The truth here's the truth. The truth is that this is Resolution Foundation. And basically, it's in the Observer. And what they want to do two things. They want to say British people are lazy. They don't want to work. That's why we need immigration into the country, number one. And number two, this is like a prelude to the Labour taking over. And they're going to say, look at how great Labour is. People are working. You know?
We have a bizarre thing, Paul, where we have chronic work shortages combined with lowest unemployment ever, combined with what's interesting about this story is that the focus is when you look at unemployment figures, and we've got the lowest since the 1970s, what it does include is the people who are off work for disability benefit, which also includes mental health. And they're making the argument here that if they crack down too much on people on the dole, people on dole are going to start going, you know what, I'm a bit mental, and get off that way. I think that's what the risk. That's what they're saying, right, in this article.
Yeah, they are, and I do have an issue when we bring mental health into it in a way that we're just undermining the whole thing. We have developed our understanding of mental health and its impact on us as humans and the way we operate a lot over the last 20 or 30 years. We could chuck the baby out with the bathwater if we start saying, of course there are people, because everything's gone up. Everyone's got ADHD, everyone's got autism. Now, I'm being very flippant and deliberately facetious. I'm not saying that's true. However, because people are taking advantage of this, it's undermining the real problems. And I think that's always going to happen. It's cachet, isn't it? If mental health issues gets you off work and you want to get off work, you'll take advantage of mental health issues. This particular story for me, a little bit of a non-story in terms of its statistics. It does fit in very well with what Lewis was saying in the fact that pre-Labour in the 90s, we've mentioned them a lot today, this was a problem. Then Tony Blair and the Labour Party got in, it wasn't a problem anymore. It's a problem now, and of course Labour are likely to get in by the end of this year, and it's going to be fixed.
The problem could be the Tories as well.
It could be the Tories. It could be the Tories.
I want to defend the British people here. There's no shortage of workers in this country to fill those jobs.
Okay.
What there is there's a shortage of employers willing to pay the going British wage.
OK, spoken like someone with true mental health issues. That's the end of part 2. Come back in a moment for ancient sexism, white blokes getting all the best jobs, and people who earn more than they're worth. It's not about Paul and Lewis. See you in 2.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. We saw a very unsettled day on Saturday with lots of showers around, but things look quieter for Sunday, drier, brighter, with lighter winds too. Low pressure is anchored towards the northeast. That brought the very blustery northwesterly airstream. Lots of showers on Saturday. A little ridge of high pressure though moving in from the west, and that does promise to quieten things down as we go into Sunday. Still quite a few showers to contend with as we go through the first part of the night, but they will tend to become more focused towards the north and northwest during the early hours of Sunday, and with clearer spells developing elsewhere, the winds just starting to ease down a touch. We could see a touch of frost in some rural spots. Town and city temperatures holding up at 4 to 6 degrees, locally down closer to freezing though in rural areas. As we go into Sunday then, a much quieter day on the whole, lighter winds, more in the way of sunshine around, still 1 or 2 showers, mainly up towards the north and northwest, still wintry over the hilltops in Scotland, and notice there rain just gathering out towards the far west by the very end of the day. In the sunshine and with lighter winds, it should feel fairly pleasant, temperatures peaking at 13 Celsius in the southeast, that's 55 in Fahrenheit. And as for the start of the new working week then, things will turn very wet out towards the west, quite blustery winds developing once again. Whereas out towards the north and east, we hold on to some bright weather at times, and temperatures not doing too badly still, certainly down towards the southeast, peaking again at around about 11 or 12 degrees. But things will generally turn more unsettled during the week ahead, so rain at times, and temperatures close to the seasonal average.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio, and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Starting this section, Observer coming up. Lewis, welcome back to Headliners. For a 21st century Jew, you made a cracking medieval Christian.
Why would that be?
Because of the story that you're reading.
Oh, this is my story. Medieval Christian misogyny. Oh, you're saying I'm a misogynist.
Yes.
Shapes how... I'm not a misogynist. I don't
What
like,
are you?
I don't like you. I'm like, you're getting on my nerves. Anyway, you're always talking too much. Let Paul and I talk to each other. Nobody wants this. You're a liberal on the show. You're tolerated. Don't think it's your show. They're just putting up with you. They don't like you.
Okay. Stop with these truth bombs, Lewis.
Too much.
And medieval Christian misogyny shapes how we judge women today, says scholar. This woman, who sounds like she's a Russian, she gave a speech at the Cambridge Festival, and she's a Cambridge scholar. She wrote a thesis. She didn't even write a book or anything. She just wrote something for...
Theses are very long, by the way.
They could be long, but she didn't even get it published.
Want to say what she said?
She said, basically, the patriarchy in the Middle Ages were against women looking pretty, and the patriarchy today is against women looking ugly. So this is just... She just thinks the whole world
So the Christian idea of real beauty
Would you
being
ask
within
Paul to explain?
is
Paul
the idea that getting... Because in Roman times, it was all about jewellery and bouffant hair and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it was early...
Like the 80s.
Yeah, exactly. And early Christianity kind of wiped that idea out. And then she makes a connection to rape, which is...
Because they had less money during the Middle Ages. The Roman period, the reason they had so much makeup was because they had...
Posh women had jewels and stuff. That's the point. But what do you make of this? And also, what do you think about men nowadays in terms of what would they have made of us and our focus on...
Well, I mean, this all feeds back into our ridiculous obsession with the past. We keep comparing, like, a lot of our stories are comparing ourselves with Shakespeare's times or the time of slavery and making us guilty for it today. There is no direct comparison between us and our ancestors other than the genes that connect us. We are not the same society. We don't abide by the same rules.
But the point is there are... I don't know if that's totally true. There are connections, and these things do travel through time. There are certain truths that do continue.
I mean, some of the things that she said, some called women who put on makeup and dyed their hair deceptive and artificial. Now, you could hear that in a pub today. Yeah. It's not impossible, I guess. And another said women who wore jewels and clothes could not be trusted.
Like I said, this is timeless stuff. It's Sunday Telegraph now, and it turns out Shakespeare... Well, he was the original Gammon, wasn't he, Paul?
He was. Lord Gammon of Gammonshire. Shakespeare made theatre too white, male and cisgender. Oh, my God, I hate that word. Taxpayer-funded study finds...
That's the bit that I hate the most. The tax funded.
Exactly. I mean, God, this stuff is boring, Josh. I mean, OK, we spent 800,000... We did, OK. Of course he did. Of course he did. He came from a time where all of these things, straight, male, white, they were nearly all whites, right, OK? Most of the... OK, we don't agree with it now. Most of the actors, all of the actors then were played by men. So that's of its time.
The actors are played by men, but also...
But I mean, all the characters were played by men, so including women and children in many cases. So that was part of its time. White. A lot of people at that time were white. Now, it's impossible to say whether they were cisgender or not, because at that time, homosexuality...
Yeah, it's very possible. Cisgender didn't exist and it doesn't exist now.
So, I mean, the idea that they were all out and proud and gay during Shakespeare's time maybe is a falsehood. But there will still be gay people around. We are achieving nothing by continually comparing those times with now, other than this. And I don't blame the people who produced this report. Got 800 grand. That's £1 million in my money. I don't blame them at all. Someone wants to pay me 800 grand to write this report. I will do it and ham it up good. But the people I blame are the people that ask for this and use our money to deliver this ridiculousness. We have to stop looking back. We have to go forward.
Well, I disagree with you. But there's nothing wrong with looking back. History is fascinating and we can learn much from it. But in terms of rewriting history, Lewis, that seems to be the problem here. Apart from the fact that £1 million of our tax money, apart from the fact there's still 2 years more of this report to be written, I say stop the report right now, get what money we have back that we've already committed. And then we also get a little quote here from a certain person called Andrew Doyle. Have you heard of him?
Our boss, yes, I have. And he said there's a very good reason. The point is, they hate white people. But Shakespeare was very multicultural. There was that Danish guy in it.
Yeah,
one of his
he had an earring.
A black
Shakespeare
guy.
had an
there
earring.
A black guy.
Othello.
So You know, I don't know what people are complaining
Yeah,
about.
it's a Jewish guy. I mean, terrible representation.
But he's still giving an actor work.
Yeah. Right, let's go to the Observer now. And Lewis, it looks like the Labour Party might be full of secret small c Conservatives, like you're full of the secret donuts I left in the kitchen.
Yeah, well, this is senior Labour figures seeking to water down plans to decriminalise abortion. And this is a serious issue. And basically, so some Labour people say we want to make abortion totally legal. So if someone has an abortion past, say, the 6-month cutoff date, that they won't be put in prison, which is, I'm against putting mothers in prison. But on the other hand, there's lots of people who are saying, no, you have to be more... You know, personally, I think if a baby, like let's say the baby's foot comes out of the woman.
No, that's not
out of the woman. No, we're going there. The fact is basically what is abortion? But
okay, that was today's worst explained story. Paul, you want to?
You cut me off. I was getting to the point of the baby that was left. That was left. They're basically saying it's okay to kill a baby at any point in its development.
Okay, that's
what they are saying.
Yeah, but they're saying now they're going to water back on that.
So there's legislation in place to try and decriminalise
after a woman
abortion.
last year was sent to jail, although later.
Absolutely. So it's bringing everybody in line. I think the points that Lewis has made are still valid in the sense. For me, this is where I depart with a lot of my colleagues on this channel. I don't think government should be telling people what to do with their bodies. I really don't, OK? And I don't think that... I'm very uncomfortable, for instance, with abortion after 24 weeks, but I'm also uncomfortable with baked beans. So who am I to make that decision? And who are the government to make that decision? If a woman wants to make that decision, they probably should, and that will get me in a lot of trouble.
Well, I personally feel like there is a line somewhere where it becomes...
I'm really uncomfortable with it. I just don't like the idea that a government can be telling people what to do.
But I also don't like the idea that it's going to be not criminalised to any degree in that there are...
So at 40 weeks?
Out there, yeah, or whatever. Like, suddenly it's like, what, all the way up to the birth? The mother can do anything there is another being there at some point. Now, for a lot of people, the question is where that line is. Removing all... legalities around this feels wrong to me.
I agree with Paul. I don't think we should be telling mothers what to do with their children, with their babies. Even like up to 2-3 years old, you should be able to say we made a mistake, we're a bad parent, and try again. It's like taking a piece of paper and crumpling it up. I think you should be allowed to kill your own children.
And we're going to go to a break, Josh.
Up to a certain age.
Great. And for Ofcom purposes, I must say, I don't think you should be able to...
Kill.
Right, we go to the Sunday Telegraph now. Actors Union basically not doing its job, Lewis, or certainly unless it's working for actors.
Oh, is that me?
Yeah.
Is that me? Was that you?
Oh, no, it's Paul. Sorry.
But it's OK, you could have done it. I mean, that'd have been the professionalism.
Yeah, Paul, I mean... It's pretty mental. Read the headline.
Yeah, I will do for you, man. Actors Union accused of straying from purpose by sending money to Palestine. And, of course, this is Equity. I'm not aware of any other actors union. There may be other actors unions, but this is Equity we're talking about. And it's the Brighton branch of the Actors Union that has used a fund to send a donation to support the Red Cross in Palestine territories, according to those close to the process. However, the union have said, look, they've abided by all of their own procedures, and it's a very small sum.
Now, this is the Red Cross, of course, who haven't actually delivered any medication to the hostages, which I'm wearing the badge for.
Yeah.
The Red
Comedy.
They've said...
Comedy, Josh?
Yeah, well, my point is that the proviso was not any of this money should go in any way towards Israel. Why is an actors union, Lewis, and you're an actor, you've been in many, many movies in the far background... Why is an actors union getting so politicised on this particular issue?
Because they hate Jews, basically. This is all about hating Jews.
That's what we want to say.
But the point is, let's try to keep it light, Josh. This is at 11 o'clock at night. People need to laugh.
Well, a lot of Jews have left Equity because they do feel that they particularly biased.
Who can they go to? I'm in BECTU. BECTU. I don't even know what it stands for. I pay £60 a year. I'm in BECTU. This is only one branch of the union.
Yes, but the wider branch, they were trying to bring in, weren't they going to do boycotting Israel and BDS in 2021?
Yeah.
So seems to be a theme. A lot of Jewish famous actors and actresses have left feeling very uncomfortable.
Because there's hatred for the Jews, there's hatred. The other story was hatred for white people in this country. There's hatred for everything that people used to like, they don't like anymore. Let's get used to it. We're all going to die.
I think that if Equity want to help the Palestinian people, I think that, I'm just saying, maybe they might want to teach some of the Pallywood videos, the fake videos that go out there, just better acting. Because we see the same guy in all the videos. I'm not saying that every video is made up, but you see videos where there's a guy, he's in hospital, he's got all the bandages on, and then his mum obviously had heard about that he'd been hurt, and then she rocks up, like, what's wrong with you? And it was like, and he was like, no, I'm okay, and he takes off all the bandages. He's like, no. She was totally freaking out.
Yeah.
So a little bit of acting lessons for some of the Pallywood.
You know what, Josh? It's too late. We're doomed.
That's the end of part 3. Join us for the final section. We have news about poor grammar, the benefits of coffee, and the psychology of monsters. Don't go away.
Dubes & Co. Weekdays from 6 p.m.
You think this country needs new gas power stations. Apparently, this will all be about trying to get some form of energy security. Rishi Sunak has upset people today with this suggestion, people saying that actually this would do more damage to climate change than it would do good. Where are you on it, Richard?
I'll tell you exactly where we need a lot more gas power stations and nuclear power stations, because quite often the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine. Last week, we imported 16% of all our electricity because we haven't got enough capacity in the UK, and we're now totally over-reliant on renewables.
The part of the problem is the lack of storage capacity, which the government has finally got round to addressing. I think this as backup is actually quite a sensible idea. But they are not doing anything, as far as I can tell. At the moment, it will be retrofitted to have storage capability, which seems to be utterly bonkers. I mean, anyone who's got solar panels, you know very well you're storing up energy. So it's about storage as much as production. They could have gone, 20 years ago, we could have had nuclear power. We could have done more. We haven't looked far enough ahead in the future, and we are in grave danger of making the same mistake. I mean, the other side of this is, what is the difference going to be? Blackouts are, they're irritating and... Irritating?
It'd be disastrous. It would destroy our economy.
Well, they would be now, but, some of us remember 3-day weeks and things like that. And in fact, I grew up thinking that everybody had, at least a couple of days a week when they had to eat off a primer stove and things.
This is, again, I don't want to harp on, but this is one of the problems in the politics in our country, isn't it? So many politicians, they just think in election cycles. Absolutely. They just think, what can I do and say to get my own backside re-elected at the next general election? They're not always looking ahead at, actually, politics aside, what is genuinely the best thing for this country?
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Dubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. Opening this section with an article in the Mail on Sunday. What is good? This one.
In it, blood. Yeah. It's all right, Mush. So the Mail on Sunday here are saying how the death of grammar has affected daily life and why everybody's talking about it, and that's all in capital letters, and that's important. We'll get to that in a minute. The Mail here...
Not that important.
No, it's not that important, to be honest. The Mail here provide all sorts of variations of examples of how grammar, particularly online and particularly amongst the Generation Z of our community, are abandoning a lot of the things we all learnt as children, and they are still being taught
in the style of a teenager.
So I don't think our audience deserves to see this.
It's painful.
It is very, very painful.
Someone trying to be funny at the Mail, and failing.
You could have paid an open mic comedian to do a much better job of this, because there's some really good open mic comedians. I don't know what, I'm not going to go open mic comedians. I was one. Some would still argue I am. Ariana Grande, Olivia Rodrigo, and Billie Eilish have all had they still have lyrics printed and album covers produced, which I didn't realise, and they've all had them produced in lowercase. And this story really hones in on the fact that people don't use capital letters anymore. So they don't start a sentence with a capital letter.
Because it takes extra effort to press that button.
And they're like, well, it doesn't make any difference. You know, why would we do that?
Are you a lowercase boy, as it says here?
Well, you know something, I prefer lowercase to all caps, which is noted in the thing. My comedy manager in New York, Barry Katz, very famous, and he used to type in all caps. It was like he's screaming at you. It's really way more distressing.
Yeah, but
caps.
I think in his case, I can understand it.
He screamed at everybody. It wasn't just me, Josh.
Definitely
you. Apologise for that.
You. Moving to The Observer and a story pertaining to your other career as an unlicensed... Well, I know, eccentric crank, Lewis?
Oncologist. I'm an unlicensed oncologist. Okay. Coffee drinkers have much lower risk of bowel cancer recurrence, study finds. And this comes out of the Netherlands, where they looked at 1,719 people in the Netherlands who had bowel cancer, which is another word for intestinal cancer, which could be whatever. And it said that people who drank a lot of coffee had less recurrence of cancer. So they're implying that coffee drinking might cure cancer or might make cancer better. Or it could be that people who drink coffee have more energy, so they're running around more, they're using more calories, they're fitter, they have the energy to go to the hospital maybe when they've got an appointment, and they get better made. This is the most ridiculous non-story ever. It's just a complete association.
Well, it is interesting, though, Paul, that it was only a few years ago that they were saying that coffee was possibly carcinogenic by the World Health Organization. This has been a real flip.
Well, yeah, that's exactly why I don't like these stories. These stories give hope to people that need hope. They're really searching for hope. You know, someone who's got bowel cancer or someone who's recovering from bowel cancer could be looking at this thinking, I'm just going to drink more coffee. And it really won't make...
I wouldn't say that. I'd say this kind of proves that it will make a difference.
Well, I don't think it does. My point is... Yeah, you did. My point is 1,700 people...
what he's saying.
Well, I am trying to... My point is 1,700 people... I mean, what else could they argue? They had odd socks. They were all wearing shoes. I mean, to me, this is not a big enough sample, and it gives hope. There are people out there...
But there are other studies that prove that there's... And this goes into the reasons why coffee could have this impact. Yes, some of those reasons could be valid, but it does also talk about some of the chlorinogenic acid, various things that moderate the body's glucose, insulin levels. They're saying that this is probably the reason, and this is a positive thing if we can figure out what exactly it is in
coffee. It would be a positive thing if there was backed up with additional things. I drink coffee, and there's a very mixed feeling about coffee out there. I actually believe in coffee. I believe in coffee.
I believe in coffee too.
It makes me go to the toilet.
I don't think it's going to cure your bowel cancer. What cancer...
It doesn't say it's going to cure it. It says it's more likely than non-coffee drinkers. And the more coffee you drink, the bigger impact it has.
It's calling Carl. Correlation, association, risk of, link to.
All right, Steve and Alan, thank you.
Yeah.
Paul, the story in the Sunday Telegraph makes me think that the Catholic Hong Kongers may as well start confessing their secret sins to Alexa.
To Alexa, which we all know is listening to us anyway and feeding it back to the Chinese. I don't think anyone is surprised by this, but Hong Kong clergy fear Beijing...
Trying to say it as racist.
I'm not going to at all. Hong Kong clergy fear Beijing could bug confessionals, so concerns grow. The new legislation, known as Article 23, and of course being introduced into Hong Kong, which is now of course part of China, threatens priests who fail to report dissension among their flocks. So I mean, China is an authoritarian dictatorship in much the same way Scotland is under the SNP. And this is the sort of thing that's happening in Scotland at the moment.
Also, but this is obviously going to affect the Christian population here. It's a big deal for them.
I think so.
Christians.
Well, it's a big deal because you feel bad for the Hong Kong people because they used to live in relative freedom and now they don't.
There we go. Right, the show's nearly over. Let's take another quick look at Sunday's front pages. We have the Mail on Sunday. Kate, I'm so touched by everyone's outpouring of love. Sunday Telegraph, Prince's pride at the courage of his wife. The Observer revealed the deadly tactics used to keep migrants from our shores. The Sunday Times, Kate wrote every word to reassure the nation. And the Sunday Mirror, thank you for your warmth and support. We are so touched. And finally, the Daily Star, now they are sorry. And those are your front pages. That's all we have time for. Thank you to my guests, Paul Cox and Lewis Schaefer. Nick Dixon will be here tomorrow at 11 p.m. with Paul Cox and Leo Kearse. And if you're watching at 5 p.m, stay tuned for breakfast. Good night, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. We saw a very unsettled day on Saturday with lots of showers around, but things look quieter for Sunday.